Hello, boys and girls. It's me again, reading another chapter from Charlotte's Web. And today's chapter is kind of long, and I'm only going to read half of it because I don't think I can download the entire chapter if I read it in its entirety. So I'm going to read chapter 9, Wilbur's Boast. A spider's web is stronger than it looks. Although it is made of thin, delicate strands, the web is not easily broken. However, a web gets torn every day by the insects that kick around inside of it, and a spider must rebuild it when it gets full of holes. Charlotte liked to do her weaving during the late afternoons, and Fern liked to sit nearby and watch. One afternoon, she heard a most interesting conversation and witnessed a strange event. "You have awful hairy legs," Charlotte said, Wilbur, as the spider busily worked at her task. "My legs are hairy for good reason," replied Charlotte. "Furthermore, each leg of mine has 7 sections: the coxa, the trochanter, the femur, the patella, the tibia, the metatarsus, and the tarsus." Wilbur sat bolt upright. "You're kidding," he said. "No, I'm not either. Say those names again. I didn't catch them the first time." "The coxa, the trochanter, the femur, the patella, the tibia, the metatarsus, and the tarsus." "Goodness," said Wilbur, looking down at his own chubby legs. "I don't think my legs have 7 sections." "Well," said Charlotte, "you and I lead different lives. You don't have to spin a web. That takes some real leg work." "If I could spin a web, I could spin a web if I tried," said Wilbur, boasting. "I just never tried." "Well, let's see you do it," said Charlotte. Fern chuckled softly, and her eyes grew wide and with love for the pig. "Okay," said Wilbur, "you coach me and I'll spin one. Must be a lot of fun to spin a web. How do I start?" "Take a deep breath," said Charlotte, smiling. Wilbur breathed deeply. "Now climb to the highest place you can get to, like this." And Charlotte raced up to the top of the doorway. Wilbur scrambled up to the top of his manure pile. "Very good," said Charlotte. "Now make an attachment with your spinners. Hurl yourself into space and let out a drag line as you go down." Wilbur hesitated a moment, then jumped out into the air. He glanced hastily behind to see if a piece of rope was following him to check his fall, but nothing seemed to be coming from his rear. The next thing he knew, he landed with a thump. "Oomph!" he grunted. Charlotte laughed so hard, her web began to sway. "What did I do wrong?" asked the pig, when he recovered from his bump. "Oh, nothing," said Charlotte. "It was a nice try." "I think I will try again," said Wilbur cheerfully. "I believe what I need is a little piece of string to hold me." The pig walked out to his yard. "You there, Templeton," he called. The rat poked his head out from under the trough. "Got a little piece of string I can borrow?" asked Wilbur. "I need to spin a web." "Yes, indeed," replied Templeton, who saved string. "No trouble at all. Anything to oblige." He crept down to his hole, pushed the goose egg out of the way, and returned with an old piece of dirty white string. Wilbur examined it. "That's just one thing," he said. "Tie one end to my tail, will you, Templeton?" Wilbur crouched low with his thin, curly tail toward the rat. Templeton seized the string, passed it around the end of the pig's tail, and tied it 2 half hitches. Charlotte watched in delight. Like Fern, she was truly fond of Wilbur, whose smelly pen and stale food attracted the flies that she needed. She was proud to see that he was not a quitter and was willing to try anything to spin a web. While the rat and the spider and the little girl watched, Wilbur climbed again to the top of the manure pile, full of strength and energy and hope. "Everybody watch," he cried, and summoning all his strength, he threw himself into the air, head first. The string trailed behind him, but as he had neglected to fasten the other end to anything, it didn't really do any good, and Wilbur landed with a thud, crushed and hurt. Tears came to his eyes, and Templeton grinned. Charlotte just sat quietly. After a bit, she spoke. "You can't spin a web, Wilbur, and I advise you to put the idea out of your mind. You lack 2 things needed for spinning a web." "What are they?" asked Wilbur sadly. "You lack a set of spinnerets, and you lack..." Here's pictures. "And you lack know-how. But cheer up. You don't need a web. Zuckerman applies you with 3 big meals a day. Why should you worry about chopping food?" Wilbur sighed. "You're ever so much cleverer and brighter than I am, Charlotte. I guess I was just trying to show off. It serves me right." So we're going to stop right there, and tomorrow we'll pick up and finish the rest of the chapter. Or I should say on Monday. So we'll leave it off there on page 60, and on Monday I'll finish the chapter. Have a good weekend, guys. See you later, and see you next week. Bye.